Coming to you from the greatest city in the world, it's Ventriloquism Weekly. Hey everyone, happy Monday. It is such a thrill to be back in the Big Apple. Matt Bailey here in my brand new dorm room. It's much bigger and much nicer than it was last year, just saying. So much more room and great acoustics for doing this podcast. And I have three very chill roommates that are so totally cool with me setting this up and running this, so that's awesome. And they're very supportive, and they were kind of freaked out when they heard I did something like this. So it's I don't think of it as unusual, but they thought it was pretty cool, and they're happy to let me do it. So awesome roommates. Although, like I said last year with Hector, this is the first week back. I don't know if you'll be hearing them around. There are four of us in just a big room with four beds and a sofa. So, yeah. Just be warned, but they're not here right now while I'm recording this. So it's great to be back. And although PA is my home, it's time to cut this program loose once again and see what new adventures await. We have a fantastic guest to kick it off today. Creator of Vent Haven Open Mic fan favorite character Marzipan Lavender Sparkles, a.k.a. Marty the Unicorn, Hannah Leskosky joins us. Let me tell you, she is one of the most creative young vents on the scene and has wonderful insights. To talk about everything from her start in our art to creating a character for herself to work opposite Marty, our interview with Hannah Leskosky. Hannah Leskosky, welcome to the program. How are you today?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I am good. Thank you so much for being here. This is great.
Yeah, again, thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I'm so excited. So, this is going to be a lot of fun because every year at the Vent Haven Open Mic, I get to watch you just grow and knock the socks off of all the other ventriloquists in the room. It's crazy. So, but before we get to the nitty gritty with your very famous character, I want to begin at the beginning, like I always do. How did you get started in this art form?
Well, I was 8 years old, and my mom had actually done ventriloquism for maybe like a couple months when she was in second grade, because she grew up during, what's his name, Paul Winchell, and really liked, really was into Paul Winchell and Jerry Mahoney, and was not very good. She says that herself. She says she's not very good, and did it for a little bit, then quit, but kept the puppet. And one day when I was 8 years old, we were cleaning out our front hall closet, and this little puppet fell down, and I was like, Mom, what's this? And she told me about it, and I kind of just started, playing with it, and I was pretty good for someone who didn't know anything about ventriloquism, and she gave me a few tips on, what to do, and I kind of just went from there and taught myself, really.
That is so cool. That's just awesome. So was Marzipan Lavender Sparkles, I'm assuming he was not part of the original of your first foray into the art. Can you talk about those first shows, and if he did come right away?
Oh no, Marty was much later. He when I first started, my very first figure was a hard figure, and it was a girl. And I didn't really know this is when I was like 8 or 9, 10, didn't write routines, was just using really old jokes, and just kind of playing back and forth. And I really didn't like using it, but my parents didn't want to buy me like a really nice one until I promised to stick with it. Obviously I have, because I've been doing it for like 15, 16 years now.
Awesome.
So her name was Sandy. She was my first one. And then actually at the first Vent Haven that I went to, I saw this cat puppet, and I'd grown up always having cats, so I got it and was able to actually kind of write material for it. And that's when I, kind of started getting into my own of what I wanted to do. So, I only use soft figures. I only use animals. And after the cat came a dog, let me see. There have been other ones in there that I've used once that just don't work, and they kind of just hang out now. I have a bee. Those are my first. I think that, yeah, those are like my first ones when I first started performing. And then when I started in high school, actually, around junior year, I was kind of always embarrassed. I never told my friends because they would make fun of me for doing ventriloquism.
Right.
And I was like, well, I really kind of want to not mature my act, but do it so I don't have to just do it for libraries and, animal shelter functions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I kind of started coming up with ideas for puppets that could work better with, a more grown-up crowd. And the first one that came with that was a cockroach. It's Marianne Taylor, custom cockroach. I performed with her once at Van Haven. She's got like a furs and heels and stuff.
Yeah.
And then Marty, I don't know, when did Marty come around? It was one Vent Haven, I remember. And I was like, I really just want a puppet that no one else has. I was like, I've never seen a unicorn before. I want one. And the entire, the rest of the festival, I just kind of came up with this entire world that he lives in. And I thought it'd be so funny that if there was just this cute little unicorn who was just the most surly and ill-tempered and kind of drug-addicted person that you could find. And then that's kind of how Marty came to be. It was, let me see.
Because it's a very interesting use of paradox. It's a very interesting use of a twist. You look at a unicorn and you go, they're gonna be all rainbows and glitter and lots of fun, and then Marty opens his mouth and it's just like the total opposite. So it's very interesting that you just kind of hit on that one year. So it wasn't like you said, oh, I want to do maybe something related to like a Family Guy or South Park type style. You just said, let's do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. I wanted, and the thing is, I never really even thought about it until I started getting comments at Vent Haven from people who are like, oh, you're the character. I was like, oh, I guess I am, because I am a lot more like Marty than I am, as a ventriloquist Hannah performing with him.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, no, that's, I never even thought about it like that. And I remember the first year I performed with him, I forget who it was. Someone told me afterwards, they were like, I saw you come up with that unicorn. And I was like, oh God, it's going to be something like this. And then it was the complete opposite. So I thought felt pretty good.
Yeah. And can you talk about how you decided that you were going to be the, as Bob Isaacson likes to call you whenever he introduces you, the flower child of ventriloquism? How did you decide, okay, I'm going to have Marty be this ill-tempered, drug-addicted unicorn, but I'm also going to play a character and not just stand up there and be this rote kind of straight man to the character?
Right. Well, what I figured was, I was like, you can't have two people who are kind of apathetic about everything. And if he's going to be grumpy, I was like, if I was actually, if I was performing with a unicorn, I think I would be thinking it was the most awesome thing ever. And that just kind of started working in my mind, that I was like, that me on stage was just so delusional into thinking that this was just a wonderful, magical unicorn, but he's really just a huge jerk. And yeah, no, I really didn't even really think about it that much until, people pointed that out. But I always thought that you shouldn't just be a straight man with a, puppet. Both people should be acting to some extent.
And you hit on something. We talked to Sammy King earlier this summer, and he's very, very big on splitting and making sure that the two two entities on stage are as rounded and as three-dimensional as possible. Is that
Right.
something that, like you say, you didn't think about it? So did it come naturally for you, or once you, even though you weren't thinking about it making too big of a difference, was it something you had to work at to say, I need to be as lively on stage as Marty is apathetic?
I think what it was, I didn't think about the splitting at all. What I think it was I was like, if he's going to be this much of a, grump, and he's going to be this kind of unlikable, I have to be over the top likable to balance it out so that, his annoyance with me kind of makes sense so you don't hate him. So it was more of just kind of like I felt like I needed to balance it.
Right.
If that makes
No, that makes total sense. You needed with such a unique and different type of character, you needed something else to sort of draw that out for him.
Yeah.
It makes total sense. And the actual puppet, I rarely go into this, but sometimes it's a lot of fun to talk about the tools. The actual puppet, we were out at the group photo, and you ended up like right behind me in the group photo. Take a look on the Van Haven website. That you ended up right behind me, and we were talking. Marty's a backpack.
He is. Marty is one of a kind. There is no one else like him ever. When I decided I wanted a unicorn puppet, my parents and I were like, oh, it probably won't be too hard. And we were looking and nothing. And I had a very, very specific image in mind of what I wanted it to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, nothing would do. And we kept looking and looking at all these stuffed animals. There are no unicorn puppets anyway. And then my dad found this cute little backpack. And I was like, that's perfect. That's exactly what I want him to look like. So then we try to order the backpack. We can't buy it anywhere. It's not even on eBay. Like, this thing is out of, completely out of stock. They've stopped making it. So my dad, I think called the manufacturing company to find out and there was literally one. So we bought that, and then Marty, came as a backpack. I did some surgery on him. I removed his straps, and then I fixed up his mane and tail. I sewed furry rainbow fur. It was white before. And then I actually sent him off to Marianne Taylor, who helped make him an actual puppet. Yeah. So that's, he is one of a kind. So
that is wonderful. Now I have a question, and that's all I do is ask questions. But right. To you and to anyone else listening, this is not a criticism, because I love how Marty looks. I love it, but I'm thinking, okay, you're going to go on, you're going to do venues like theaters and other banquet halls and stuff, and he's tiny and adorable. Do you ever think there will come a time where you're going to say, okay, this is the original Marty, let me get a bigger Marty? And how would you go about that because of that very specific image?
I know, I've people have asked me that, I've thought about it. I really don't know, because I'm very, very loyal.
Yeah.
As weird as that sounds, I would feel weird working with, I know he needs to be bigger, but then I think about, Nina Conti and Monk. Monk isn't that big.
No, he's not. He's probably smaller than Marty.
Right. And I just, I've thought about it, but I honestly don't know of any puppet maker that would be able to make him look like how he looks. And I don't want him to look any different. I want him to look how he looks, but if I could make him bigger, but I don't think I can. So. Yeah,
and you do bring up, I hadn't even, when I was thinking of the question and thinking about how to ask you about that without making it sound like a criticism, I didn't even think of Monk and Nina. I don't even know why I didn't, because they're some of my favorite, they're one of my favorite vent duos as well. So you bring up a very good point that as long as the character is strong, and Marty is a very strong character, the puppet doesn't matter. The size, the sort of visibility of it doesn't matter if it fits, and it fits to a T. It really
well,
does.
I mean, yeah, because like Senior Wences used his hand and like a little suit, so
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of events. You just don't think about it till you start to think of the aesthetics of the puppet. You go, okay, who uses a smaller character, and you take a look, and there are,
yeah.
So the other thing about Marty I wanted to ask, and I should have asked this while we were talking about development of him, but material. How often are you refreshing the material, working on new situations for this flower child and unicorn duo?
So far, let me see. I have like 3. Every time I've used him at Van Haven, it's been completely new material.
Yes.
I try to come up with. I'm always trying to think of new things. Honestly, like I'm not trying to like brag about myself or anything, but sometimes I'll read some of these and I'll be like, I don't know how I even came up with that because that's so weird. Like, I'll go through this and I was like, well, how did my mind come up with that? But it's kind of like, actually a lot of it is usually after I've worked with him for a while, especially after Van Haven, I'm like, always after Van Haven, I'm super motivated. I'm like, yeah, ventriloquism.
Yeah, me too.
So then I like kind of come up with what scenarios I want. And the main thing about Marty is that he does a magic trick that's his thing. He does a magic trick.
Mm-hmm.
And he does a mental magic trick that it's very, I always have to think of a new one for each one, but the trick has to be something that obviously everyone knows that it's going on because I know it, but I like he can read the card with his eyes closed or whatever.
Yeah.
Obviously everyone knows that, I'm seeing it, but then I react so much, like it's incredible. So it needs to be a magic trick like that. So I kind of start with that and then think about what other scenarios I kind of want to talk about with him. Use real life things, but kind of twist them so they fit into his world.
Mm-hmm. And that's part of what makes him relatable as this fantastical unicorn is that it doesn't matter if he's a unicorn. Bluntly, we all know an apathetic stoner.
Yeah.
It's what makes him relatable,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, at least. So the question then is this approach that you take with him, that you've thought out, things have been pointed out to you, you didn't even realize. Are you working on another character going, okay, this is what works for me and this is why it works? Are you thinking of continuing on and branching out with other mythical creatures or other even just types of characters we may not even think of?
Yeah, actually, well, because I have such a distinct character when I work with Marty, I can't really use my other puppets with him because it changes who I am. I'm more of a, kind of just straight man when I'm with the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
Still not as much, like still not just basically like, here's the setup for the joke. But, it's way more, it's not as extreme as it is with Marty. So I've actually been I've come up with a couple more characters that I want to use if I do a show, if like I'm going to do a whole show with Marty.
Mm-hmm.
My dream is hopefully one day I can get this on the Wednesday night show in Van Haven.
Yeah.
But now I have 2 more that fit into his world. One is a frog he's a prince. But he prefers to be a frog.
Mm.
I just keep asking. I really want him to go back to being a prince because I think it's amazing. But he's so boring and just thinks being a frog is the best because he just sits there. So he's kind of like, but he's stupid too. He's just really stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I'm picturing this, guys.
What?
I'm saying the reason I'm laughing is because I'm picturing this and I can see it very well.
I have a little crown for him that keeps falling off. And the third one, who I'm still working on, like actually not creating him because he's like a puppet, but tailoring him to what it should be, is that it's a lizard who's pretending to be a dragon because he sees how well I treat all the other ones. So he has no magical powers. He's just a lizard who's dressed up very poorly to look like a dragon, but he's convinced me that he's a dragon, and keeps like slipping up about talking about being a lizard, and like the parts will fall off and stuff like that. So,
oh my word! Talk about creating a world as a ventriloquist, a world for your characters. that's I'm very happy to hear that that's the direction you're taking it. That's brilliant. I very much.
I just really want an opportunity to like kind of use them all in one show. So hopefully that'll come about.
Well, you bring up a question I thought I was going to have to skip because we were getting on here with your character development. But do you perform? You mentioned performing at Van Haven. Where else other than Van Haven within the year do you perform?
That you see, I don't perform nearly as much as I should, just because I work a lot and I'm in grad school, and it's a lot. I had the event scene down in Champaign-Urbana, where I'm from. Like, I was doing libraries, birthdays, Humane Society events, reading things. I was doing a lot of things. It was my job all through high school.
Mm-hmm.
But once I came to college, it got a lot harder because I'm actually really not that good at putting myself out there, especially when it comes to, performing. And so I haven't really, I've done some shows in college and undergrad. I was part of an improv group, and we would do pre-shows and after-shows, during our regular performance. And I would sometimes do an after-show of ventriloquism, or, pre-show of my ventriloquism. And, every now and then, maybe I'll get invited to go do something in Urbana and have to go home to do that. But really, I really don't perform as much as I should. And I keep meaning to like go to a comedy club and do it, but it's kind of nerve-wracking, especially in Chicago. So.
Oh, I totally get it. I think that's wonderful. But it's so interesting to hear. I'm sure once you're done with school and the world becomes your oyster, I'm sure you'll pick back up with it at the speed that you were in high school. I think because it's in your blood, definitely. Hannah?
Yeah?
What was that?
Wait, I'm sorry. I guess I didn't hear what your last thing was.
I said I think that. So I guess I'm certain that you'll once you're out of school and that's not an obligation and the world is your oyster, you'll be able to pick back up with it again and at the speed that you were in high school.
Oh yeah, hopefully. I'm currently in grad school for screenwriting, and so hopefully that'll be part of it. But writing really, ventriloquism was all about basically. It's essentially screenwriting as well. So hopefully, like, if I move to LA or something, I can start, maybe doing some more ventriloquism on the side.
Mm-hmm.
Once I know exactly like what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I agree. So hopefully it'll pick up.
Hopefully it'll pick up, and maybe it even will become your life and a career for you. I think.
Yeah, who knows?
It's always such fun to watch you grow at Van Haven, and I'm going to ask you our last question that I always like to end with our listeners, which is you being so fresh and unique and part of this future generation of ventriloquists. What do you want to see from this same generation? What needs to show up in our art form?
Wait, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yes. I said you're a part of the generation now coming up, the future of ventriloquism. You're very creative. We've just spent the last 20 minutes talking about that. I said, what do you want to see in ventriloquism? You know what you're doing, but what would you like to see in this art form as it progresses?
Oh, I think I'd like to see, like, more people make it their own. Like I guess kind of how I did.
Mm-hmm.
It became so much more fun when I like knew what was going on. And I guess I'd like to I think people should just work on not trying to emulate really anyone else, just trying to see what works for you. And again, the ventriloquists themselves, it's really fun to play a character up there yourself. And I think a lot more people should work on doing that, because then it's really kind of like a show, not just set up joke.
Yeah, absolutely. That's wonderful advice. And Hannah Leskosky, thank you so much for being with us. That's a great place to end it. As I've really enjoyed talking with you today. Thank you so much.
Again, thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Oh, it's an honor. Thank you. Thank you again to Hannah. I have a feeling we'll be seeing much more of you in the future. Next week, we have a really special treat for you, something different. Team America World Police Puppet Captain, Las Vegas producer, and of course, world-renowned marionettist Scott Land will be with us. So please look forward to that. A reminder, you can find all you need to know about Ventriloquism Weekly by visiting our website. This is our mothership, ventriloquismweekly.com. Reach out by emailing ventriloquismweekly@gmail.com. I cannot stress enough, this is my email. If you want to reach me, I check it every day. My email, just set up for the show to keep show stuff separate from the rest of my stuff. It's my email. It's one of the, I'm sure I'm not the only one with a million Gmail accounts. So ventriloquismweekly@gmail.com, please. Thank you. And find our group on Facebook by searching Ventriloquism Weekly -podcast for ventriloquists. You can tweet us at and using the hashtag TalkFor2, TalkForTWO. From New York, signing off for Ventriloquism Weekly, I'm Matt Bailey, reminding all you vents out there to keep talking for two.